Alright, here's what I want to talk about today. I noticed on any major video or major-ish video on homelessness or poor people or poverty or whatever, you have a lot of these comments on the video, like, oh, Country Boy says, remember back when we used to call these people bums and nobody had any trouble with them, all of a sudden they started calling them homeless and all this shit came with it. I talked to him a bit on my other account, and he thinks I explained to him that. Okay, well, let me go on to the other comments. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So that guy said that, and then this one guy says the majority of homeless don't want help. People seem to forget that when they praise to end homelessness. This guy says, I see mental health, entitlement, and most of all, laziness. And this other guy says, this other guy even wants to make it harder for homeless people by saying the city needs to put some kind of hostile architecture on the floors in the bathrooms to make it very uncomfortable for people to sleep on. And what these what these comments have in common is that they're completely oblivious and ignorant and rude and just downright stupid about what the real cause of homelessness is, the government. When you have an establishment that has taxation, inflation, economic regulation, and the drug war and other shit, we're going to have more homelessness. And yet these people want to blame homelessness on the same erroneous thing that's been blamed on for years, decades, whatever. They want to cite laziness. They want to say, oh, these homeless people are lazy. Totally cringe on their part, am I right? Well, they aren't right. Because, for one, the welfare state, like, the welfare state creates dependency for the homeless. It doesn't help them get a job or help them get back on their feet. It just gives, and gives. And rather than them learning how to get a job or getting a job or feeding themselves or whatever, they just get stuck with getting stuff. Like this article says, how does homelessness stack up against private charity? And, it shows this. Hold on, let me think. This shows that, indeed, 93% of welfare recipients rely on welfare for more than 2 years. Charity, on the other hand, is not guaranteed, so it encourages people to take responsibility and become self-sufficient. Well, duh. And then you have, like, the drug war. Real fun, which, if you get like a drug conviction, like for this, if you get a drug conviction, you can't get a lot of jobs. You have to go through a background check to get some jobs. If you refuse a background check, you don't get chosen by default. And if you go forward with the background check, but it turns out you had some fucking drugs on your record, you're not getting hired. And that's the way the current system is. It's like, the state's made it so if you have applicants that have drug charges, you can't hire them. You can't fucking hire them. That's really stupid. It's really, really sad and judgmental, not to mention kind of invasive. But that's the it's the way it works so far. And you got inflation, which, when your money buys you less, you have to make more of it than what you had to make before to buy stuff. So that ain't great either. And then you have taxation, and where you take away people's money and they have less of it to spend on stuff they need or want. So that's what's really causing the poverty. Not to mention all the fucking zoning laws that make it so you can only build expensive ass single family homes or complexes, like apartment complexes, condo complexes, big stuff. But the little stuff, that's a bit harder to find due to how strict the zoning laws are. And these people in the comments, they just want to blame the homeless rather than all these government policies that make them there. I don't understand. It it seems like it's not even just a lack of empathy or sympathy or just compassion. It seems like these people genuinely want to victim blame and believe homeless people bad, government good. And I'm like, do you people ever even think at all? Because apparently their words and actions show otherwise. I mean, the one thing I will agree with is that all these camps, all these, like homeless camps, they ain't so great to have around. I can say that. If they're grimy, dingy, dirty, you know, and on other people's property, then that isn't cool. But I'm not just gonna pretend and be judgmental and maybe even kind of snide and self-righteous and act like, oh wow, these people with their tents and their carts and their griminess, that's all on them. There's no way government policy from the government which I support could have possibly created all of this. No, no way. If you're homeless, it's your fault. Case closed. And I don't understand that. I mean, it's there's all this knowledge at your fingertips to tell you how the world really works and what the system is really doing. Yet people don't even want to look it up, even for 5 minutes. They just want to have their stupid, long debunked many times over narratives rather than actually learning something so they can actually do something. I mean, it's just really tiring to try and reach out to people. And yet they'll say stuff like, if that's what you want to believe, then by all means, the country has been in a lot worse shape. Remember that little thing well, you probably wouldn't remember the Great Depression. My grandmother lived through it. She had to quit school at 14 and get a job. So did her brothers and sisters. They worked hard. These people that you are talking about are lazy, drugged out. It is their own fault. They are where they are at. But whatever you want. So it's just like, seriously, dude? I mean, this guy, he's not only being really snide and self-righteous and condescending and just plain oblivious towards the whole topic of homelessness, he practically he believes in just world fallacy, which is a fallacy where you act like if you just work hard, you know, everything should just work out. But obviously, it isn't true. Just because you work hard doesn't mean your survival or your livelihood or your prosperity is guaranteed. I mean, if the system is trying to rip you off and suck you dry, hard work ain't gonna mean as much as it should. It's not gonna be as effective because, hey, the system is sucking you dry. So, I just really wish these people would do like 5 minutes of research. Like 5 minutes to find out the truth that, hey, your government is really screwing you over with the economy and these homeless policies and this war on poverty. That's the problem. Not just, oh wow, these people are druggies and they suck and they're dirty. Yeah, just kick them out somewhere, anywhere but here. I mean, that's just really, really detestable to have that kind of narrative and to peddle that narrative. I mean, are there at least some self-entitled people that are lazy and druggy or whatever the fuck else? It's their fault. Of course there are. Of course, there's always going to be people that don't just quite want to work or think they should have to work, even though they can work. That's a given. But that's not the main problem here. I mean, if if that like were a problem, like a hypothetical scenario where, oh, you have homeless people because they're lazy and self-entitled, that wouldn't be like a sixth as big as it is today. It'd be way smaller. You have way less homeless people of just people that are self-entitled and lazy, don't want to work. Way less. But since you have a government that wants to capitalize on the war on poverty, that wants homeless people as an excuse to have a place to spend tax dollars, when you have a government that inflates the currency, taxes the currency, taxes the people, you know, eliminates jobs, eliminates homes, makes it harder for charities to do their work. Like there was a charity where a guy built small homes for the homeless in LA, and they worked and all, and the homeless were very grateful, and they stayed in their homes and they didn't bother anyone. And the city still had an issue with that. They destroyed most of them. At least most of them, maybe all of them. And I'm like, God damn, what is wrong with these asshole politicians? You know, this guy pays money out of his own damn pocket to help the homeless out, and you just take it away from them. That is just disgusting. That's just disgusting. And uh here it is. Small homes for the homeless. Okay, in Los Angeles. Okay. So this is the video of the guy that
Each
tried
night,
it out.
tens of thousands.
Okay, so he's okay, so you know, you got some interviews of what he's doing. You know, like it's a musician guy that's helping him out.
Built by a self-described struggling musician named Elvis Summers.
I got involved with building tiny houses because of a woman named Smokey. She's 62 years old, lives in my neighborhood, and as I got to know her, realized that she was sleeping in the dirt, and I decided to build her a tiny house.
In his 20s, Summers was homeless for stretches of time himself. Now the 39-year-old is trying to help his neighbors who have fallen on hard times.
Some other homeless people came by and asked if I could build them one. I didn't have the money, so I figured, let me try one of these crowdfunding things I've seen out there. I mean, it blew my mind. I mean, I think I passed 50,000 in the first week. Total, I've raised, over 100,000.
Summers has built tiny homes for nearly 40 people, aided by professional contractors and other volunteers who sign up to help through his nonprofit, Starting Human. Each house costs roughly $1,200 for materials.
The houses I build have carpet, 2 windows, a steel reinforced door, smoke detector. It's got a solar panel on the roof, powers 2 light bulbs, and the battery pack has a USB port on it to charge your cell phone, which is huge. An address, American flag.
Summers also equips each of the 6x10 foot houses with a camping toilet and even window alarms. He says they were never meant to be a permanent solution, but unlike sleeping on the sidewalk or in a tent, his tiny houses provide the secure foundation residents need to improve their lives.
You know, the tiny houses provide immediate shelter. You know, the houses I build are very sturdy and safe. People can lock their stuff up and know that when they come back from their drug treatment program or a court or finding a job all day, that their stuff is where they left it.
I got my resumes, my shower stuff. Want to not be homeless. Want to order pizzas in my own home. I want a DVD player, man.
All right, that's good and all. Where does it get bad? Okay, now you got these assholes
But as Summers was building houses, anger in the community over growing street homelessness was reaching a boiling point early this year.
These homes were nothing more than a detriment to mine and my neighbors' homes, families, and children. And they created a sense of terror in the residents.
Nestled within dour tent shantytowns, Summers' tiny houses became brightly colored targets for residents who want the homeless out of their backyards.
They had the children walking in the middle of the street and not on the curbside when they're going over the overpasses.
Most of Summers' tiny houses were placed on private land that's been donated to the project, such as
Yeah, there you go, people. You got the fucking NIMBYs. They're not in my backyard, people. Acting like some houses that aren't a problem are a freaking problem. You know, it's like these people complain about everything. I mean, look. Okay, well, here's what NIMBY or not in my backyard means. It refers to people that don't want a certain real estate entity in certain places. Like, I don't want them to build this shit, or I don't want them to build that shit. I don't want them to build small homes for the homeless. Ain't cool with that shit. That's gotta go. That's what the concept means, and it's incredibly short-sighted, self-entitled, and just mean. I mean, it's like if people can do what they want on their land. You don't get to act like, I own everything. I own this town. I own this neighborhood, and if I don't want something to get built, it doesn't get built. You can't act like that. But hey, you know, that's how people are, and the government that empowers them is all cool with that.
a part in February, the city council amended a sweeps ordinance to allow the tiny houses to be seized without prior notice. On the morning of the 9th.
Yeah, and okay, but back to my main video. You see, I just feel sad that, I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I just feel sad that, you know, you have people that wanna voluntarily help the homeless, and yet regular people like middle class people, and I guess even the rich, you know, the rich elitists, have a fucking problem with it. You should not have a problem with this. If this is not on your property and in your life and you're not having to pay for it, then you shouldn't have a problem. Because it's not a problem. It's not a problem for people to voluntarily help the homeless. It's not a problem to give them houses. It's not a problem to help them back on their feet. If it's with your money and it's out of your face, it's not a problem, period. Yet some people still have a problem with it, and some people still just blame homeless people because apparently that's really easy, fun, and self-righteous to do. It's like, yeah, it's their fault. Ha ha ha. You know, I mean, it's just really, really tiring, and I wish people would stop doing that crap, because it's not gonna end homelessness for one. I mean, I'm sorry, but just saying homeless people bad, make them all go away. They're homeless because they suck. Doesn't make them go away. You're still gonna have homeless camps, homeless people, poverty, you name it. Since you're blaming the wrong thing, you don't get the right result. You know, you don't want these people in your way, and you want them to have jobs. You're like, oh, they're self-entitled, they should work. Well, kicking people out doesn't exactly give them a job. I mean, that's kind of common sense or natural sense or duh sense that if you just kick people out, they don't get employed. It's like, gee, I thought you people wanted them to have jobs, so this doesn't get them. This doesn't get them jobs. And I just wish people could really, I don't know, I'm not saying people even have to give to the homeless. I'm just saying people have to stop enabling the state, which runs these policies, which ruins homelessness, which makes it bigger, and even ruins stuff for the middle class. I mean, the homeless are not the only people, the parasites in suits, political parasites in suits, as Larkin Rose calls them. They're not the only people getting ripped off or shafted. The middle class is getting shafted by the government. You know, they're having to pay more taxes and inflation, and you know, they're having to deal with the drug war and uh, economic regulation and zoning laws. They're having to deal with that too, and in fact, that's how some people even ended up homeless, from the middle class to homelessness. You know, the government did this, and that to them, and now they're homeless. And you can be a hard worker and, you know, still be homeless. I mean, there's a video on it. You know, there's people making like, you know, homeless can't afford a house. You know, you have this, employed but homeless. I make $20 an hour and I'm still homeless.
These people are struggling to find a home while being surrounded by billionaires.
Yeah, and see, the zoning laws make it so only billionaires can get stuff built for them here.
In the US. And it's also the county with the highest income inequality.
I've been at the homeless shelter for a while. It's intimidating. It's not what the rich person wants to hear.
There's a housing crunch in Jackson Hole.
There are apparently 2,000 folks on the housing waiting list.
You know, the pay for the area, it's, you know, in the upper 20s per hour. It's great money. You know, where's the live?
But even in a place desperate for more housing, there's small but vocal opposition to affordable housing projects.
This is crooked and you know it, and I want you to know we're going to sue you. We are going to sue to stop this.
We're in Wyoming to learn how the working class is struggling to survive in Jackson Hole, and why the least populated state in the US has a housing shortage.
In this community, I'm adamantly opposed to giving up 1 square foot of that rodeo grounds, fairground.
See, you got these asshole NIMBYs that the government just loves to have for people. And that's what ruins for things for people who aren't NIMBYs that just want a freaking place to live. So, you know, that's basically the gist of this, you know. People are blaming the wrong thing. They're not blaming the right thing. They're not getting the right results. You know, rinse and repeat. So, if people truly want to get rid of homelessness, and I'm not even talking about all that charity thing, compassion, help them get a job, really help them up. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. If people really want to end homelessness, start by ending the government, or the policy the government does at least, you know? That's what's going to get the people off the streets into a job and out of your hair. So, that's what I say. Bye.